Apologies, guys. I hope you can now hear me clear. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, please give me a thumb up on the chat box.
Okay, test it now.
It's fine. So great. So let's get started. Good morning once again. So my name is Erica. I'm the marketing campaign manager for BrighterMonday Tanzania. I oversee all the marketing operation in country. As we all know, we are navigating to the COVID-19. We are navigating to the COVID-19 pandemic and its aftermath. And this is going to be the biggest business challenge of our time. Few months ago, most companies had to adapt working from home initiative, and some have been trying different measures to ensure that operations are going on while minimizing risk to its employers. And now we are here, most companies again, and as BrighterMonday, like any other corporate, we are, preparing to go back to the office, and some we are already back at the office. And business as we know it, the corporate culture as we know it, it's all gone. So what does that mean? It means that we have to adapt to the new norm of doing business and of course operating while interacting with our colleagues and clients, of course. So with that scenario, and this is all new to us, BrighterMonday being a very supportive partner to the HR industry, we thought it would be ideal to have this session with talent and business experts where they will be sharing their insight on actions that business must take now to effectively navigate to the new norm, to the new normal of doing business. So here with us to open this session, for us is Reshma Balmal. Reshma is the group CEO. She's the CEO of BrighterMonday Tanzania, and she will be opening this session for us. So welcome on screen, Reshma. 1 minute as we wait for Reshma. Please tell me on the chat box, are you back at the office? Or if not, when are you going back to the office? And if you're back, how is it like? How are you adapting to settling back to the office? And how did you prepare, how prepared are you to adapting to this new norm? Because wearing masks, keeping a distance from each other, and while we have to, as a team, we have to be close, and we Tanzanians have a tendency of being very close. So how is it going for you? Please share with us on the chat box. Let us know how you're doing. Karibu, Reshma.
Asante, Erica. Good morning, everyone. I hope you're all keeping safe and sane, I think is the word I'm looking for. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm honored to welcome you all to the second series in this our second webinar of this series, and I'm hoping that it will be great learning for all of us. Today we come together as Eric to address some critical issues on how best to adopt to the new norm. And to me, I think this is exciting. Anything new can be scary and can be daunting. However, one thing I learned from our CEO, our group CEO, his name is Clemens, is that he said, you can change the word change, you can change literally the word change by removing the G and replacing it with the C, and it becomes chance. So that is such a great learning that that I think that we can all take with us during these changing times. I'm really looking forward to seeing how our new norm pans out. for the first time ever, probably in the history of the world, we have come together and we are united in changing our behavior. This is both in our personal and in our professional lives. Regardless of where we are located geographically, we are seeing the same, the same behaviors. Regardless of what our culture is, we're seeing the same behaviors. We're all taking precautions, keeping our family safe, keeping our colleagues safe. And this is a way, this is the true, I think, this is the true definition of a global village. If there is any definition of bringing us together, I think this is it. And another thing is, thank God we have technology. We're able to come together like this and meet you. Normally, as I said in one of our previous webinars, this would be great to have face to face, but isn't it also great that we are together here to learn, and thanks to technology, we're able to embrace this. We're being more cognizant about how we interact, how we work, and how we transact. We're making more digital payments. We're using technology to, complete our daily mundane tasks. It's become part of our lives. And, working remotely, I think technology has made it easier for us, for both employers and employees. This is something that is probably going to be the new norm. I think more and more companies will see the value of embracing technology and of seeing how innovative they can be. I think we're moving towards a very innovative era, a very creative era, and this is a chance for our job seekers as well to really shine. This is for them to come forward and say, we can contribute in this way because we understand we're innovative, we're going to be different, we're going to think outside the box. And with Brighter Monday, we've been very lucky because we are a technology-based company, and our parent company Rome, and Brighter Monday and all our sister companies, we were lucky in that we were strategically positioned to address this behavioral change of using technology in the way we worked. So Brighter Monday did not stop working, even though we were working remotely. In fact, some customers came to us and said, we didn't even know that you were working remotely because you kept in contact with us. You made sure that you were out there alive and kicking. And one of the things that being a technology-based company helped us, I think it really positioned us to be able to proactively try and support the market. And one way we did that was to provide free job listings to our employers or even our potential customers. And this happened because we were technology based. We were able to deploy this fairly quickly, where free job listings were kicked in, and we've seen a great uptake of this, and this is our way of showing support. But we were able to do this because, of course, technology made it easier for us. The deployment was seamless because our people were ready, the tools were there, and we were able to say this is our contribution to the market and to our customers. This webinar series is another key initiative to help our customers and job seekers to embrace the new reality and the new norm. And of course, it's technology driven. So what is my message? My message is, I think we're going to be seeing more technology initiatives within the companies. And I think we need to be ready and open for that. And they aren't any better experts than our panel of speakers today. Thank you, Heather and Nali and Araika, for agreeing to be here and sharing your key advice and insights on how to navigate the new form. I'm so looking forward to this webinar and to learning from you, and of course to being with all of you virtually. Karibu-san, and thank you again, everyone. Thank you, Erica, over to you.
Thank you very much, Reshma, for such a warm welcome. Please let me know if you can hear us. And if you can't, can you please refresh your browser? Okay, please do let me on the chat box if you're having any difficult hearing or seeing us. So without delay, I would like to welcome to our first speaker. So our first speaker has over 10 years of experience in designing and implementing e-recruitment tools as well as global talent management system. She's a talent acquisition professional with extensive experience in recruiting over 23 countries in Africa, managing teams and across East and West Africa, working with them to deliver Africa's finest talent across several industries. She's none other but our very own Heather O'Shea. Heather is the group head of talent at Rome, our mother company. And I know we are very excited to host Heather back. And some of you who were present on our previous webinar, I know you're all as excited as we are to have Heather here with us today. So Heather will be speaking on how to get your team prepared for working and interacting with team members and clients once you're back at the office. So, karibu sana, Heather.
Hello, thank you, Eka. Thank you. Good morning, everybody in beautiful Tanzania. I'm coming to you live from a very cold Cape Town, but technology obviously keeping us alive and well and doing what we do best. So I'm going to go through a very short presentation with you and I'll take questions. I think it's important as we have a look at where we are and where we're going. So as soon as you can see my screen, if you can just let me know in the chat box, that would be great. Erica, can everybody see my screen? All right. So I think I want to start right at the beginning and talk about people first. And remember that getting people to work remotely was not easy. Nobody, there were a lot of people who weren't set up at home. We had to take a lot of things into account. And so having put everybody now on, let's get everybody remote, how do we get people back to the office in an effective, succinct way? Because getting people back now is going to be a lot more difficult than we actually realize. There's a lot more complexity involved. So why is that more complex? Well, numbers have increased whilst they were working from home. So when everybody went and worked from home, the COVID numbers were sitting at a certain level. Those COVID numbers have now changed. People are a little bit more nervous. And so, how do we bring them back with the comfort that we have your back? It's going to be okay. More fake news about COVID. Who's so tired of hearing about COVID this, COVID that? And where do you get the real information? So people sitting at home, done a lot of their own research, they're a lot more nervous. People are not sure what the future holds. And the other thing to take into account, which is really important, is a lot of people have been in their homes, which for them currently appears to be safer than returning to the office. You control your own environment, and now you have to leave what you've been used to for a while. So a couple of things to take into account that are really important is educate and offer reassurance and communicate to the staff what you are doing or what you are going to do. So some things that we did, cleaning of the office. Why? Because staff feel comforted that they're going back into a clean environment. Remember, they could control the home environment. They can't control the work environment. So communicate. We're cleaning our offices. We're getting it ready for you. Hand sanitizer. I know, ladies and gentlemen, you're all tired of your hands feeling really dry, but hand sanitizers in the offices for the use of your staff. Communicate that will be there. Masks. This is the new norm at the moment. Essential for leaving the house. But communicate to your staff. How do you use them? How do you care for them? Because that, at the moment, besides the hand sanitizer, is our only other barrier to the disease. Social distancing at work. Set up the office so that the staff are not sitting next to each other. So we've taken that into account. And in Rome specifically, all the offices have now been set up with a 2-meter distance. Most importantly, put some policies and guidelines together. Staff need to understand what they can and cannot do at work. So for example, if somebody is not feeling well, who do they contact? Give them those guidelines. What happens if people visit the office? Guidelines around that. Also, guidelines around moving around in groups within the office, not advised. Other things to take into consideration, again, educate and offer reassurance, is who can still work remotely effectively. So work out who needs to get back to the office. So who's having connectivity issues at home? Who's feeling really despondent and they need to get back and work from home? And how do you do this? A few simple things to consider. Consider having teams work in rotation. So at the office, you get 5 in this week, they go back to remote. Another 5 in the next week, get them back in remote. So not everybody is there at the same time. Identify for those who can work effectively from home. So if everything's working at home and there's no need for them to actually come back straight away, keep the status quo. Identify as those who are still caring for children, and I'm going to talk to this in my last slide. Very important. Primary caregivers are battling at the moment, having to work from home and still look after the children. It's almost an impossible task. Take into account who is using public transport. Can they perhaps come in a little bit later to avoid the morning rush? Maybe have them come in at 9:30, let them leave at 3:30 so that you don't have everybody moving around with too much public transport. And can team members maybe carpool? Have the discussion. Do you live in the same area? Can you travel together? Obviously wearing masks, etc. So these are some of the really bigger areas that you can consider when you start looking at bringing your staff back. But I think one of the most important things for me is show your company cares. What does this mean? We've all been on calls where the child is crying next to mommy, or there's noise in the background because the children want attention. I've had some Zoom calls where I've had people sitting with their children on their laps, and that's perfectly fine. But I think the one area we really should focus on is showing that we care. So something Rome did for their staff is we got a nursery school teacher on a call with parents, and we offered some wonderful different ways to keep children engaged with activities. So we were saying, we get you, we understand you, how can we help? Because children are really taking this hard. They don't understand as what we understand as parents and as working functional people. So how can we support you as a staff member by giving you tips to support them to ensure that your children's mental health is also being taken care of? One thing that I noticed, and it was coming through quite a lot, is the temper tantrums. And most certainly, I'm sure everybody on this call can go, Heather, the temper tantrums have escalated, because it's a very different environment with children having mommy and daddy at home, but they cannot spend enough time with them. So something we did, which worked very well, was to have a session with a nursery school teacher, and then that person actually put together a whole range of activities to assist parents. So these are just some of the areas as we get used to the new normal. The one aspect for me that's very important is that if we don't consider the children's aspect as well, is your staff coming back to work are still not going to be as fully productive as they'd like to be. And something you could consider when you are putting your children or your staff back to work is, how do I support the children as well? Are there any questions that you might have for me at this time?
No questions yet. I think maybe they will ask as we go on.
Okay. And that's really it from me. And this is what we've implemented currently, getting back. So BrighterMonday Tanzania went back with the same philosophy. All our branches and all our teams are getting back to work. But this is the approach that we took. Over-communicate. And remember also that everybody is human and that the children are feeling the pain as well. And how best can we support parents with the situation at the same time. So that's it from me, Erica. So I see a question there from Gabe. Must you force everyone in the office even if they are not comfortable? So Gabriel, forcing people back, I don't think is the right word we should be using. We're encouraging what we call a soft launch back to work. So please have a discussion with whoever's nervous about coming back. See if they can possibly carry on working from home. It's not a you need to be back at work, it's a soft launch. Who can come back to work? So it's not a forced situation. And look at that person's specific issues that they may be having or concerns and address those directly. Will most certainly be your best way to do it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Heather,
Pleasure.
for such insightful tips. It's always a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thanks.
Karibu tena.
Thank you.
So our second speaker is Ms. Araika. She's a cognitive psychologist and the founder of the Safe Space. She is dedicated to see Africa's potential realized by focusing on the three key areas: the mental health, gender equality, and behavior change research. Araika is a published researcher, and in the 2017 CHI conference extended abstract from human factors in computing systems. She will be speaking on handling mental health during COVID-19. Karibu sana.
Okay, that's great. All right, so good morning, everyone. Brighter Monday, thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me time to talk about that I find extremely important, and that is, anyone who knows me knows I engagement. So please ask questions, please, because that's the point of me being here. But something that I thought would be important for us to discuss today was trauma and grief. I don't know if if you know a lot of people who've lost someone to COVID, or you yourself has lost someone to COVID-19. You know that it's been a difficult time, even if you haven't lost someone yourself, because for people who have lost anyone, they can't really go partake in the funeral. They can't give people the proper goodbye. We've been surrounded by death all around us. And so I feel like as we go back to work, the main question that employers should ask themselves is, are people's cognitive powers at full capacity? Are people able to actually just jump right back into, yes, productivity goals? Let's just tick off things off a list, because it's like a big switch. We have just come from, oh my God, I'm scared for my life. I'm scared for people I care about. I'm scared for my job security. I'm scared. Like, we've had anxiety all across. And there's other things going on in the world right now as well. We have like protests, and there's just chaos everywhere. So how can we switch back? How can we say this is the new normal, just go back to work, and we're expected to just, I don't know, be productive? It's difficult. It doesn't come naturally, because that's not how our brains work. So I wanted to talk about trauma today. When you hear the word trauma, what's the first thing that comes to mind for anyone? Most probably you've heard of PTSD, you've heard of someone maybe going through something really bad in their life, and so, they can't get over it. But what I want to tell you today is that trauma is a spectrum, okay? And you could experience trauma even as a third party. So your friend could go through something and you could experience trauma. Your friend could lose a parent, they could lose someone they care about, and you could experience trauma from their experience. So this isn't necessarily a situation where only the people who are directly affected by COVID, okay, are the ones that are going to suffer as we move back. Now, why am I talking about the word suffering? So when everyone comes back to the office and we're, affecting mental health. Yeah, sorry. When everyone comes back to the office and everyone has to work, and everyone has to work harder than ever, Heather gave some great points of how we can social distance and how we can stay physically safe. But there's many things that are still going to go around us that will still affect us, and especially because most of us are traumatized and we don't even know it. So, for example, if someone comes close to you in the office, what would be your reaction? Now that we are so conditioned to be, in a way, afraid of human interaction, we're afraid of people. I know for one, I am. Even if we're sanitized, even if we're wearing a mask, it's like the moment someone comes close, some people react. And how do we navigate that? In terms of your concentration, your attention span, your focus, the way that, maybe you're not going to be doing calculations as fast as you used to, because a big part of your brain is also focusing on so many other things, which are, how do I protect the people that I love? How do I protect myself? How do I make sure I don't get COVID? How do I protect my finances? And so on and so forth, right? So right now, this is a delicate time for mental health in general. And when I say mental health, I'm not talking you are sick and diagnosed in a hospital. When I talk about mental health, it's just like your physical health. So this is a delicate time for everyone in their mental health, because it's so easy to tip to one side or the other. And I feel like HR departments need to be ready to provide first aid support to their employees, because we might feel like we're okay, but there are so many moving pieces around us, and that's how mental health gets affected, right? Is when all of these moving pieces get a little bit out of control, and it's difficult to say or to expect that everyone will be able to deal with it accordingly. Some people might break down in the office. Some people might get overstressed. Some people might get overwhelmed. Some people might act out of character. Some people might be impulsive. Some people might be super angry. Some people might be overworking and completely antisocial. These are all reactions, okay, to what's going on around us. These are all coping mechanisms. Now, if as HR department, as employers, if we're not aware of all of these different coping mechanisms, we might aggravate the situation, right? Because we expect our employees to be employees. Sometimes we forget that our employees are people first. And right now we've gone through something as a human race before people come into the office as an employee. That's a mask that we wear, right? We wear the mask of the wife, the mother, the father, the child, the employee, the boss. These are all identities. But at the core, we are affected by what's going on. So I wanted to talk a little bit, the time I have, about how employers can navigate this. The screen is frozen. Can everyone hear me? Okay, I'll just continue. All fine here, okay. All right, so about what employers can do. First things first, as HR and employers, you need to change your expectations. I would advise that you change your expectations on what to expect from your employees when they first come back into the office. And we treat them as people first. Yes, okay, good. We treat them as people first, right? So if we don't start to change our expectations, we're going to respond and react to their coping mechanisms in a negative way. So if you notice that your employees are just a tad bit less productive, if you notice that your employees are a bit more emotional, a bit more reactive, right? A bit more angry, whatever it is that you feel like, okay, people are a little bit different. People want to social distance, but they're almost afraid of each other. Whatever it is, however it manifests, expect difference, I'd say that's like step one. Let's expect that people are going to be different as we come back to the new normal, because again, it's new, right? We've never been in this normal before. So there's going to be some changes. Now, once we've accepted that things are different, we need to start normalizing mental health discussions. So as employers, as HR professionals, how can you make it normal for people to express themselves? Are you going to organize talks, candid talks, where people can just express themselves? Or you as a leader, are you going to show up as an example by you talking about what you go through? Because remember that if the more we don't talk about this stuff, the more that someone feels isolated, and the more that it's difficult for them to actually do their work. Ultimately, everyone's going back to work, right? Ultimately, companies still have goals. Ultimately, we want to hit those goals at the end of the year, however it is that you measure your company's goals. But at the end of the day, you can't expect your employees to be able to do that if their brain is not working at full capacity, right? So you can show up as an example and show people that it's okay to feel how they feel, that it's okay to be in pain right now, that it's okay to be a bit distracted, that it's okay to navigate back slowly, that it's okay to still have worries. Because a lot of people are going back to the office. Maybe they're not forced, but they have to. Like there are many companies that are, again, not forcing, but a lot of people, that's the truth, are just have to go back to work. And that causes a lot of anxiety for so many people. So we have to be able to empathize with people. Now, I know this doesn't come naturally, and perhaps it's not feasible to have workshops for all of your employees, to offer sessions to all of your employees. But as I feel like as leaders, as HR departments, it would be extremely helpful right now, the same way that Heather talked about the nurseries for children and taking care of the children's mental health. As HR professionals or as leaders, it would be, I think, extremely helpful to do a training on how you can provide the mental health support to your employees. So if something were to happen in the office, how would you navigate those biases? How would you manage the stress levels? If you can see that someone's triggering someone else, how do you identify those patterns and step in? Those are important things that I feel like leaders need to address right now, or HR professionals need to address right now, because otherwise, who's going to do that? Right? So many companies are going to go back and they're going to try to pretend like everything's normal, but it's not. And the thing with mental health is, the more we ignore it, the more it's like a kettle just, what's the word? When the kettle is, I don't know if it's burning and then boiling, right? And eventually it just like starts boiling over. And that's how mental health works as well. And the good thing about it is, the more we talk about it, the more we make it candid, the more we use words like I'm traumatized, not as a lie, but if you really do feel that way, or I'm stressed, or I am anxious, I'm experiencing anxiety, I feel like I'm falling into depression. If we say things and make it normal, it's easier for other people to stand up about how they feel. Because we don't know what's happening at home. We don't know what people have gone through, right? They come to work and everyone is holding back, because that's the African culture. That's what we're used to. If we do talk about it, it's not necessarily in the sense to heal, we just talk about it, right? That's our culture. We don't necessarily deal with grief. We don't, everyone says, no mpangwa Mungu, like that's God's plan. And then we let it go. And we expect everyone to heal, and we expect everyone to get back to normal. But we can't do that anymore. We can't do that because people need specific support when it comes to mental health. So I feel like for HR department, there's so much that you can do that will be extremely helpful to your employees. But just in a nutshell, I feel like normalizing mental health is going to be extremely important. Normalizing the words, saying the words, providing some sort of support space where your employees can feel safe enough to talk to someone in your office if they're going through something is going to be extremely important, because in your brain, if people are going through extreme fear, people are going through grief, if people are going through trauma, all of these things, if people are going through anxiety, what it does is, whether we like it or not, it actually affects our cognition. Our cognition is what basically we use at work. Our cognition is our decision-making, memory, attention span, our focus. All of this is affected because our brain prioritizes those other things. It prioritizes the emotions, the imbalances, because it wants us to fix them. So if that's what we're going through, we can't just switch. Even if I get back to work and today I say I'm clocking in and I'm so excited to be back at work because home was so boring or blah, blah, and I clock in for a week or two, but if I'm still experiencing some of these things that I'm ignoring, it's still going to come up in some way. I will snap at people. Somehow I will just lose motivation with what I'm doing. And it shouldn't be a reflection of my capabilities, because obviously on a normal day when my mental is extremely healthy, I produce at full effect. But right now I'm not producing at full effect because I'm going through what I'm going through. So I just want to open it up for questions because, again, I said I wanted it to be an interaction. So.
Thank you very much, Araika. We don't have questions yet, but I'm sure we'll have some questions as we go around. Oh, so there's a question from, there's a comment from Sauda. She's saying having a professional person at hand to refer people to is so important, and she totally agree with that. So I know there will be some questions as we go on with the session. And I would like to encourage everyone to please ask as many questions as you can, and Araika will be more than happy to assist you.
Yes, I will be more than happy to assist you.
So there's a question from Remy. What do you do when your workspace does not support your mental health thing?
Okay. I feel like, there's a few things to ask. First of all, are they harming your mental health, or are you experiencing struggles with your mental health and your workspace isn't supporting it? So one thing obviously would be to suggest, because I feel like sometimes there's a duality between like employees and employers, and it feels like maybe the person on the other side, it feels like they don't get me. And sometimes maybe employers, because I'm also on the other end of that spectrum, sometimes maybe employers don't know. So have you suggested, or have you candidly expressed your struggles, your challenges to HR and told them that you are struggling with this and this and this, and they refuse to act on it? Or do we just expect the employer to have a program ready? Because this is something that's changing. The same way the employers are waking up to the power of technology, I think they're also waking up to the importance of mental health, right? So this wasn't something that a lot of employers paid attention to before, but I know that many employers are now open to learning, right? Many HR professionals are now open to having an external person, whether it's a psychologist, a therapist, be able to come in to do a workshop or refer people. I work with a lot of companies who refer their employees to us, and that's because they recognize the importance. But these are also companies that a year ago when I approached them, they didn't see the importance. But after I did a few workshops and their employees themselves together, not just one person. So that's another thing. It's that don't feel like you're the only one going through something. you could also open up to other people who you're close to and who you trust in your office, and together, make a case for why it's important for your company to support your mental health, whether it is because of stress management, whether it is because of personal stuff, whatever it is. There's many different options in different companies that now have services for this. So I feel like maybe also, grouping together, creating a case for it would be something that's helpful. I hope I helped with that. Is there another question?
We don't have any other question, but yeah, there's a question from Doris and some very good comments from a lot of people. So Doris is asking, how do you, we have an employee assistance program at work, free for 24/7. We have had several mental health sessions from external professionals, but staff does not take them seriously. How do you make them take this seriously?
Yes, that's a very good question. I've experienced that on the other end, where staff didn't take things seriously. And I think that at least from what I've learned from experience, is you can't force a conversation on people when they don't know what that conversation is about. Okay? And this is something I'm going to say very candidly. For the longest time in Africa, mental health has been, when you say the word mental health, someone thinks of the complete end of the spectrum, a mentally ill person on the street with no clothes, eating from garbage. That's people's perception of mental health. And I feel like there are a lot of trainings with big words like, manage anxiety or whatever it is. But for a lot of people, they may be going through things that they don't even know that that's the word for it, right? They don't know that their mental health is compromised because everyone thinks mental health is mental illness. And so I feel like workshops, like employees are people. Every time you want to teach someone, you have to interest them. They have to see what's in it for them and what they're going to benefit from. So I feel like sometimes we have to just be candid and accept that where we are in our culture when it comes to mental health, we're in a very infant stage. People are just learning about it. There's so much to mental health that we don't know. And so when we do trainings and workshops for employees, we have to make it relevant to them. What do they care about, right? Something that I feel like has been usually very, very helpful is, for example, addictions. A lot of people don't know how addicted they are to alcohol and drugs. A lot of people don't know that those are addictions. And you don't say overcome addiction because no one would come. No one knows that they're addicted, right? But everyone knows that the more alcohol they drink, the more it affects their social situations or their marital life, or the hangovers affect their work the next day. So I actually name the workshop something like that. Don't let hangovers ruin your work. And that sounds no, that's not professional, but that's the psychologist's job. It's not necessarily to be put in a box, it's to understand the human experience. So if we use the word addiction, no one would have showed up, no one would take it seriously. So I feel like it's just about how we frame it and how we break it down and make things bite-sized, we make things relevant to the people's lives.
Thank you very much, Araika. So we are very happy to have you here. And I think we can all agree with Araika that mental health is the key of having a productive team. So thank you once again. Please keep sharing your comments and questions on the chat box, and Araika will keep interacting with you. So our last speaker has a comprehensive background in managing effectively communication campaigns that support overall commercial and marketing stakeholder engagement. She's the one and only Nandi Muyombela. And Nandi is the head of brand communication and trade marketing at Vodacom Tanzania. She oversees all the marketing initiatives at Vodacom, brand communication, product management, product marketing, media and sponsorship, decisive marketing and communication lead who drives the company's growth through creative and innovative brand strategies. So Nandi is going to share with us now that we are like we have our team ready, we have our mental health in check, and we are like 100% sure that we are up and ready to kick and go back to the office. How do we communicate that to our client? And of course, as we all know, in every crisis, there is an opportunity, lies an opportunity. So how do we see the opportunities around us and the opportunity for our business as we are still in crisis, but of course there will be some opportunities. So how do we take those opportunities, and how do we leverage to that to ensure that of course the business grow as we were all hit bad with this pandemic, but of course making sure that we are communicating the right information with our client. We are not communicating much and we are not communicating too little. So that is what Nandi will be walking us through. So welcome, Nandi, and I think she will be on our screen in less than 1 minute. So yeah, and I would like to encourage you to keep asking questions and to keep sharing what you feel about the session with us here. So 1 minute, and Nandi is joining us. You know what they say, good things takes time, and Nandi had to take her time. So karibu sana Nandi.
Yeah, asante sana, Erica, and it's good to be
We
here.
are very excited to have you.
I'm happy to be here as well. It's always good to share knowledge and, exchange some ideas with like-minded. And I believe I'm seeing about 163 people on the chat. So that is very exciting. It's a good number.
Karibu Nandi, the floor is yours.
Asante sana. So I think as Erica introduced me, my name is Nandi. And I have a background in advertising and marketing. I'm currently head of brand and communication at Vodacom Tanzania, and it's a great pleasure to really be here to share a few things that I know about advertising, marketing, and communication in general, especially in times like this of where we're facing, this challenge of COVID pandemic. And I think it's very exciting and scary at the same time, because there are a lot of things that have come about with all this that actually is going on, like what has been mentioned before, that with all this, all of us have been really accelerated into use of technology, and it's really one of those times that we have really been thrown up to the end for you to sort of rethink of how best can you get into up to speed with everything that is going on. Yeah, I'm not sure if everybody can hear me. Can you see my screen? Can you see my, I'm sharing a screen at the moment. Can you see my screen? Oh, fantastic. So I'm just going to take you through in the space of communication on how to communicate to your clients and how to leverage in terms of the opportunity that actually is coming along through this time of COVID-19. So basically, as we all know, it's a very scary time, and all of us are going through a lot of challenges in terms of trying to navigate, and especially from the business point of view, it's really a scary time because when something is happening and you're not sure of how really you need to sort to sort of, maintain the business space you are in at. Let alone, somebody spoke about employees. Some companies have decided to really allow employees to work from home. Some didn't. So our market situation as Tanzania is very unique comparing to some of East African markets or maybe across the globe, considering that some countries actually allow people to totally work from home. Stay at home and they are actually on a total shutdown, unlike Tanzania. But better still, some corporates really chose to allow some employees to work at home, which has really been an interesting time because more often than not, when you allow people to work from home, there's some kind of there's this thing that we have, like, how can you trust somebody to really work from home and really deliver what they're supposed to do? So the company I work for, Vodacom, we've been working from home from the very beginning when this whole thing came up. And we are still working from home, and I think we've really been able to see the how people really showed up and participated and put or instilled a good confidence to the management that actually, even if we're going through these challenges, but still working remotely was a good choice, and people continue to work and deliver what they're supposed to do. And health being being a very important aspect in running an organization, I think it was a good call. And personally, I'm very grateful for that. And yes, we are going on. And it's been an interesting journey. But what we are seeing at the moment, the fact that actually people are worried, but also there's an aspect of, some kind of confusion, if you like, because some expectation around financial security might come up as an after effect of what is going on. People are really scared because they don't know what's going to happen, considering that for our country, yes, schools and universities were closed, but also some businesses, especially hotels and bars and clubs, also closed in the response of trying to keep people safe. Their employees, their workers, but also their customers who actually, they go to these places of which they are supposed to be. Actually, there could have been at risk if they could have remained open during this time. But of course, we are seeing a bit of easiness, but none still. There's some measure we need to take in terms of how do we move forward to ensure that we engage our customers or our clients as we are slowly getting into a space whereby things are easing up in this situation that we are all in. Great. So the first thing that actually I recommend through this time is to have a clear communication. Since we are talking about communication and how to engage with your clients and to allow them to understand what you're going through. So clear communication is very important. So it is worth mentioning that if you haven't already done so, and I believe those who actually are running businesses have already done that, so you really need to be clear of your organization about how you have been impacted with COVID, so that there's that transparency and understanding that what is going on at the moment. But also, as we all know, there's a risk of your prospects and customers making false assumptions about your business operation, or worse, being seen as terrible or maybe detached from reality. But reality is a reality, so we really need to continue to ensure that our customers and our clients are aware of what is going on and what we are going through, but also at the same time paying attention of what they are going through as businesses. Number two is my recommendation is you have to. Sorry, I think that you have to be human, right? So when you are communicating to your clients, there's that element of how honest are you in the whole thing? Because sometimes when things are happening, we can tend to sort of stay out of everything and assume that everybody know what is going on, or maybe put it in the hide. But we need to give it some kind of human face in our communication. So if there's a thing in this crisis that is actually bringing out, it is a humanity aspect at the heart of companies, because as I said earlier, it affects us in one way or another. And all businesses are made of people. And now more than ever, we are able to take a look behind the curtain and see the vulnerable, helpful, and sometimes unexpectedly human side of the brands or businesses we are familiar with. And I want to share something that actually happened to me. There's a company that I deal with, and it's an insurance company that actually they really surprised me at the very beginning when this happened. They actually share alternatives on how I can engage with their platform because I couldn't really talk to them directly, but they were there to sort of informing that, you cannot come to our office at the moment, but, there are other options that you can actually use to sort of ensure that you remain in contact with us, but at the same time, not putting yourself at a risk of maybe your cover, run over. So it got even better. They actually, about a month or so again, they got back to me and actually gave me some alternatives. Understand that actually I'm actually going through some difficulties like everybody else. They were giving me alternatives like, we can allow you to run over your cover if it's delayed. We're not going to stop it because we understand what you're going through. So I felt that was a very good thing from their end. And unfortunately, when you're dealing with corporates, you cannot really send them their heart emoji or something. But that is one thing that really touched me as a customer from their end. But I think when you do that, it really gives a different test to your relationship between yourself and your clients. Another thing is show your true color. As a business, it is hard that you and your business will have to sort of continuously show who you are. You need to sort of reevaluate and ask yourself in terms of what is the value for your business, what is your spirit as a company, and in time of this, what kind of values are you willing to stick into it, no matter the cost of it? Yeah. So you need to really look into that. And some of us will call this purpose because you need to really look the kind of value are you open to sort of provide to your customers for them to feel like in the middle of all this, you're actually being able to support, but at the same time, providing the value your customers are expecting. So this actually, again, it applies for both small and medium-sized businesses. And I know everybody is actually on a catch-22 in a place like that. And it might not be an ideal situation for you to consider foregoing your financial values. But I think it goes in a long way because it's all about relationships, remember. But when you're able to do such things, you actually remain on top of mind of these clients. And they'll be like, okay, company so and so, they were with me during this difficult time, so actually I'm going to stick with them for the longest time as well, because it's a win-win situation. Another thing, it's about being relevant, because sometimes when you communicate, we sometimes we only focus maybe on what we're providing, whether it's services or it is product that we are selling. Sometimes we forget, especially in times like this, that clients might not necessarily be looking to buy something from you, but they might be looking for something actually will be valuable to them. And in this case, and in time like this, actually information is key. And I think it's important to use this time to figure out what kind of information your clients might require that might not necessarily be within the line of your business. So because sometimes as corporate or as businesses, you have access to a lot of information that actually might not be accessible to your client. So go out there, look for information, be from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, or any other kind of information that you actually think will add value. Add that information, they feel like, okay, I know this person, they're selling something, but during this time, they're actually, putting aside what they're actually doing and actually trying to add value in terms of my business and me, giving me some good insights and a good understanding of how am I supposed to run my business. And by doing this, it sort of like alleviate this fear, and you offer some calming advice at the end. And especially like when you see an example like the one that I gave you, that people actually are taking over and above that. And if you're like you are in a bank, a good thing will be maybe to reach out to your clients and figure out if there's anything can give them some form of a relief, being around the percentage of the interest, and it could be any other form, maybe pushing forward the timing of their loans that they have. And these kind of things really make people feel differently about your company or about your brand. But at the same time, I think it sort of builds some kind of emotional connection between yourself and your clients. Something else that I really want to add on to that is actually if there's any time that you really need to avoid during this time in the middle of communication that you're trying to engage with your clients or your customers, is actually to avoid not to sell as much as you can. Because in general, people typically don't feel like, feeling like they're being pressured into buying something, especially in time like this. And they feel pressure when there is no time like this. So imagine in time like this, when you're trying to sell something to somebody, how will they feel? So it sort of bring a bad test in the entire relationship that you have with your customer. But another thing that I would suggest, I know when we talk about communication, there are so many channels and platforms that we use as businesses. I think it's time also you sort of find a way to go and revisit most of your communications and find out, because some messaging might not be relevant at this point in time. And I'll give you an example. I was going through some materials, and KFC, they call their campaign is usually finger licking good. And when the Ministry of Health came about, in terms of people looking after themselves, and in terms of hygiene, hand washing, and whatnot, they actually had to change that line because it was not relevant at that time, and it is still not relevant at this time because we are still going through it. So I think that was very thoughtful, because at this time when you talk about finger licking, and then here we're busy saying, don't touch your face, wash your hands and whatnot, it is actually not very much relevant into that space. So you need to go and revisit your communication and see if there's any kind of message that sort of it's not coming through very clearly, that you might want to sort of tweak it and maybe improve it, and something to give it something that actually is relevant with the current situation. Because sometimes we forget, we get into the mix of everything else, and then we sort of overlook what we are supposed to sort of, currently in our websites, in our messaging, maybe auto messages that we have, and maybe your different communication that you have on air, and maybe your letters that you send to your suppliers and your clients. Just try to navigate around so you can have relevant message, because sometimes you can have a right message, but if it's a wrong time, usually that's a bad idea. So it needs to be sort of avoided. Again, don't stay silent. And the previous speakers also mentioned that. Because when you keep quiet, people don't know what is in your mind. And at the same time, it might come through as if you're playing that you don't understand the situation, or maybe you are insensitive about the current situation. So I really encourage you to really keep the consistent communication with your partners, so that they understand you. It's actually good for you as a business, so that they know you exist. But also at the same time, ensure that when you are communicating to them, you have a good test of what you are engaging them with. But I think overall, this is the best time for you to your clients to ensure that you really build trust. As I said previously, this is the time where you really need to show up to your customers or to your clients, and ensure that you are there for them. And this is the time actually it matters the most, because a lot of people have been affected. So when you show your human side and really show that you're actually on their side, that's bringing a good feeling between yourself and your clients as well. So you really need to spend like more time in terms of when you're trying to send a mail to your clients. Ensure that you sort of put humanness ahead of it. Read it again to ensure that when somebody receives it, they'll see actually the side of you that actually maybe they've never seen it before. And then at the end of the day, that build trust is a huge step, ultimately growing your customer and your business in general. And in time like this, it's actually the right thing to do. So I would really encourage all of us to continue doing that and really show ourselves as a great partner in the middle of all this. As I have a quote here that said, it is not the strongest of the species that actually survives, not the most intelligent, but the one that is most adaptable to the change. And this is the situation that we are going through as a country. And most of us actually are living it. And the fact that actually we are more than 150 on this chat, on this webinar, it's actually very impressive, because we are embracing the change, because change is actually, it's here, it's happening now, and digital is the future. And we really need to make sure that we continue to show up and show our part. And at a time like this, innovation, transformation, agility, it's very important to ensure that you really actually you are there when your client is seeking of you the most. So when you're trying to leverage on these opportunities, it's important that actually you really do your part at the company and make sure that you get a good support from the supportive business that you have in the country. That's it from me. If there's any question, I'm happy to take them on. Sorry, it was very long, but yeah, that's what I have on the table.
Thank you very much, Nandi. I think we can all agree with Nandi that communication is the key. But don't just communicate. Be smart about your communication. Show your human side, and make sure that your client can relate to the message that you're trying to communicate. So there's no questions as of the moment, Nandi.
Okay.
But I'm sure that people will keep sharing their comments and questions even later.
Sure.
And again, I would like to I really appreciate you being here. And it was such an insightful session, and we are very happy to have you here with us. Thank you, Nandi.
Thank you very much, Erica.
So we have come to the end of our session, and I hope it was the session was insightful and informative to everyone, as it was for me. So here are some few takeaway points from all our speakers. So Heather insists that we should keep our people first, and make sure that we have all the resources, as in sanitizers and masks. We have a policy. We have our policy and guideline ready to prepare people on how to adapt to this situation. And again, the most important of all is to show that your company cares about its people. So Araika really insisted on importance of mental health and making sure that the team is ready to go back mentally to the office. So Araika said that you should observe your team closely and do not ignore any detail, or like no matter how small the detail is, don't ignore it. Don't forget that it starts from the mindset, and that's why it's very important. Mental health is very important, and don't be afraid to ask for help and to get help of professional bodies like Safe Space and Araika herself. So, and again, this is a learning process, so we need to really keep learning. And Nandi summed up the session by smartly, giving us tips on how to smartly communicate with our clients. So be strategic, be relevant, and most important, be human and be flexible to adjust and change your communication strategy. Please do not forget, please do remember that you can still list your job position for free at Brighter Monday till the end of the month. And you can also get massive discount on all our premium service. So please hurry up and take advantage of this initiative from Brighter Monday before the end of the session. So we will be sharing a replay of the session in case you miss some speakers or you join the session late. And we have a very small, we have a survey that only takes like 1 minute. So please text the word normal to the number that appear on the screen, that is 1532, and do participate on our survey. It takes just 1 minute. It's very important for us to get your feedback of the session, as we would like to be in a position to understand what is relevant for you and what you would like to hear more from us on the next session. So until next time, thank you very much for being here with us. Bye-bye.